Welcome to our deep dive into a story that's sending shockwaves through Silicon Valley.
Yeah, it's January 2025, and while everyone in the US is, focused on the new presidency and all that,
Right.
over in China, something huge just dropped in the world of AI.
It's like a real-life David versus Goliath, only in the world of cutting-edge AI.
Exactly. Like, we're talking about DeepSeek R1.
DeepSeek R1, right?
This AI model was developed by this team of Chinese researchers.
And get this, they did it with a budget that would make Silicon Valley laugh.
Yeah.
Except no one's laughing now.
$6 million.
$6 million. That's it.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable when you compare it to what OpenAI and Google are spending, billions, right?
Billions, yeah.
So today, we're diving deep into how they pulled this off. We've got excerpts from this new book about the whole DeepSeek phenomena, plus some leaked internal documents from, like, the big tech companies.
Susie?
It is. We'll explore how DeepSeek R1 works, the strategies behind its creation, and the shockwaves it's sending through Silicon Valley.
Well, and what's really fascinating is the timing of this whole thing. They chose to announce this right in the middle of the U.S. presidential transition.
So it's like they knew the world would be distracted, yeah.
It's like they strategically picked the moment when, everyone was looking the other way.
Okay, so walk me through this. Like, what was the immediate reaction when DeepSeek R1 first hit the scene?
Oh, man. The tech world just went nuts. I mean, you had Mark Andreessen, the Silicon Valley legend, publicly praising it. That just amplified everything,
Right.
And then suddenly everyone's scrambling, like academics, major tech companies, they're all trying to figure out, how did they do this? How did they achieve so much with so little?
All right, so we've got this small team in China, right? They're working with limited resources, and they managed to create an AI that's rivaling the best in the world. How is that even possible? What's the secret sauce?
Well, I think it really challenges this assumption that you need massive amounts of money to build advanced AI. The DeepSeek team, they had to be super resourceful because of sanctions, limiting their access to certain technologies.
So that actually, like, that constraint became their advantage.
Exactly. It's like necessity is the mother of invention, right?
Right.
And, we even got our hands on this leaked document from Meta. They're calling it the Meta Memo.
Oh, wow.
And let me tell you, they are seriously concerned about DeepSeek R1.
So even the giants are feeling the heat.
Oh, absolutely. Like Meta, they're acknowledging that DeepSeek R1's performance is right up there with their own models, but they can't wrap their heads around how it was done on such a shoestring budget. It's like they're totally caught off guard.
Okay, so let's break down some of the strategies that made DeepSeek R1 possible.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned modularity earlier. Can you explain what that means in the context of AI?
Sure. So modularity is kind of like building with Legos,
Okay.
Instead of one big complex structure, they built DeepSeek R1 as a bunch of interconnected modules, each one optimized for a specific task.
So it's like a toolbox where you can swap out different tools depending on the job.
Exactly. It made them super adaptable, They could upgrade or even replace these modules as needed.
That makes a lot of sense from, an efficiency standpoint.
Right, exactly. And it actually resonates with the principles of open source software where, collaboration and adaptability are key.
Interesting. So they were kind of inspired by the open source world.
It seems that way. This modular approach actually made it way easier to incorporate stuff from the global open source community, which, helped them stretch their resources even further.
It's amazing how they turned limitations into opportunities, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, so they were smart about the architecture with this modular approach, but what about the data? I mean, training a powerful AI, you need tons of data, right?
You'd think so, right? But they didn't just go for the bigger is better approach to data. They really focused on data efficiency, like maximizing the value of even small data sets.
So how did they do that?
Well, they used techniques like data augmentation.
Data augmentation. What's that?
Basically, it's like creating variations of the data they already had to artificially expand the data set.
So give me an example.
Okay, so let's say you're training an AI to recognize pictures of cats, right? You could flip those images, rotate them, or even adjust the colors a little.
Okay.
And by doing that, you're essentially giving the AI more examples to learn from without needing to, collect a whole bunch of new data.
That's incredibly clever. It's like getting more mileage out of the data you already have. Did they use any other tricks to be more efficient with their data?
Oh, yeah. They also did some synthetic data generation, which is basically like creating entirely new data points based on the existing ones.
So it's not just about the quantity of data, but also the quality and how you use it, right?
Exactly.
Right.
And you know what? This focus on efficiency, it went beyond just data. They were really into something called algorithmic efficiency, which basically means they were optimizing their algorithms to run on less powerful hardware.
So they weren't relying on, massive supercomputers and things like that.
Nope. They were thinking ahead, knowing that not everyone has access to those kinds of resources.
So it seems like they were challenging conventional thinking at every turn.
Totally, and it paid off big time. But, their success wasn't just about technical brilliance. They were also really strategic about forming partnerships.
Tell me more about that. Who did they team up with?
Well, they collaborated with a bunch of academic institutions, which gave them access to a whole pool of expertise and research capabilities.
Smart move.
Right. And they also tapped into the global open source community, not just for the tools and tech, but also for that spirit of collaboration and knowledge sharing.
So they were building an ecosystem, not just an AI.
Exactly. And, we can't forget about the support they got from the Chinese government. It's no secret that China has this big push for technological self-sufficiency.
Right. Right.
So that gave them even more resources and, just amplified their impact.
It's fascinating how they combine technical innovation with these smart partnerships and, aligned it with China's national goals. It's clear that DeepSeek R1 is a lot more than just a new piece of tech.
It's a statement, yeah.
It's a statement about how the whole landscape of global technological leadership is changing.
And that's where things get really interesting. Because, get this, they made DeepSeek R1 open source.
Wait, open source. So anyone can access their work, build on it?
Exactly. It's like they threw open the doors to their innovation lab and said, come on in, everybody. It completely democratizes access to cutting-edge AI.
Wow, that's a bold move. But I imagine it's also, making some people pretty nervous, especially in Silicon Valley.
Oh, you better believe it. DeepSeek R1 has really thrown a wrench into Silicon Valley's dominance. Some are seeing it as a wake-up call. Like, hey, we need to rethink our strategies and be more open to collaboration.
And others are seeing it as a threat.
Definitely. There are genuine concerns about, what happens when this kind of powerful technology is out in the open. Could it be misused? What about intellectual property theft?
So DeepSeek R1 has basically become a major factor in this whole tech Cold War between the U.S. and China.
Totally. It's like this big geopolitical chess game.
Yeah.
And DeepSeek R1 is a key piece on the board. The U.S. is trying to figure out how to stay ahead, focusing on domestic innovation, strengthening alliances, and what they're calling tech diplomacy. And China, they're just continuing to invest heavily in their tech sector and, trying to shape global tech governance to their advantage.
It sounds like the stakes are incredibly high.
Mm.
But even with all this competition, are there any opportunities for both sides to work together?
Oh, I think there are. When you looked at things like AI, ethics, and security, those are issues that demand global cooperation, right?
Uh-huh.
It's like even in the middle of this intense rivalry, there are areas where working together is the only way forward.
So it's this push and pull between competition and collaboration, and DeepSeek R1 is right at the center of it all.
Absolutely. It's amazing how this small team with a tiny budget and a whole lot of ingenuity has managed to turn the tech world upside down. And now everyone's trying to figure out what the new rules are. Welcome back to our deep dive into the DeepSeek R1 phenomenon. It's a story that's really captivating the world. And as we kind of dig deeper, we're uncovering all these layers of insight that go way beyond just AI.
Yeah, it's true. This isn't just about a new AI model. It's about a fundamental shift in the global innovation landscape. And what's so fascinating is how DeepSeek R1 has become this catalyst for this broader conversation about the future of technology.
Yeah. And, what's really striking to me is how this whole thing has challenged the traditional narratives we have around technological leadership. For decades, we've assumed that dominance in, fields like AI, it's linked to having tons of resources and this established infrastructure.
Yeah. But DeepSeek R1 has totally flipped that script on its head.
Yeah.
It's a real testament to how strategic thinking and a real commitment to efficiency can disrupt even the most entrenched hierarchies.
Exactly. And as we kind of break down the strategies that this DeepSeek R1 team used, we see this really deliberate approach to challenging those conventions. They didn't just work within their limitations, they turned them into advantages.
Okay, let's unpack some of those key strategies because I think They offer some really valuable lessons for anyone, regardless of their industry or their area of expertise.
Absolutely. So, one of the most crucial elements of their approach was this focus on modularity, as we talked about earlier. They built DeepSeek R1 as, a system of interconnected modules, each one optimized for a very specific function.
Right. It's like they created a system where every part could evolve independently, making it, easier to adapt and improve over time.
Exactly. This modular approach allowed them to iterate very quickly, experiment with different components, and refine the system without being, bogged down by this monolithic structure.
Okay, so how did that modularity help them deal with the constraints they were facing because of the sanctions?
Well, they couldn't access a lot of Western technologies because of the sanctions, so they had to get creative in finding alternative solutions. And modularity allowed them to, swap out components as needed using readily available alternative or even developing their own solutions in-house.
It's really impressive how they turned a limitation into an opportunity for innovation. So did their use of open source frameworks play a role in that too?
Oh, absolutely. By leveraging existing tools and technologies from the open source community, they were able to bypass some of those barriers they were facing. It's a real testament to the power of, open collaboration when it comes to driving technological advancement.
Yeah, so it's not just about the technology itself, it's about the ecosystem that they built around it. This network of collaborators and partners really played a crucial role in their success.
Absolutely. They understood that innovation really thrives in these environments where knowledge is shared freely and diverse perspectives are welcomed.
Speaking of diverse perspectives, did the composition of the DeepSeek R1 team itself contribute to their innovative approach?
I think it did. The team was made up of individuals with a wide range of skills and backgrounds, which allowed them to approach problems from, multiple angles.
So they weren't all just AI experts.
No, no, not at all. They had experts in hardware, software, data science, even cognitive psychology. This diversity of thought was essential for their ability to innovate within those constraints. They weren't afraid to challenge assumptions, and they recognized that the best solutions often come from, unexpected sources.
That's a great lesson that goes way beyond AI. Building a diverse and inclusive team is really crucial for any organization that wants to stay competitive and innovative.
Absolutely. Diversity fosters creativity, it challenges groupthink, and it leads to more, robust and resilient solutions.
Okay, so we've talked about modularity, collaboration, and diversity.
Yeah.
What other strategic insights can we, take away from the DeepSeek R1 story?
Well, one of the most striking aspects of their success was their focus on data efficiency. They didn't have access to the massive data sets that a lot of Western companies rely on, so they had to be incredibly strategic in how they used the data they did have.
So they essentially had to do more with less.
Exactly. And they did this through techniques like data augmentation, which we discussed earlier, and synthetic data generation, which involves, creating entirely new data points based on existing data.
So instead of just collecting more and more data, they focused on getting more value out of the data they already have.
Precisely. And that's such a valuable lesson for anyone working with data. No matter what industry you're in, it's not just about the quantity of data, but the quality and how effectively you use it.
Right. And this focus on efficiency went beyond just data management. They also prioritize what's called algorithmic efficiency, which means they optimize their algorithms to run on less powerful hardware.
Right. They challenge this assumption that you need, massive computing power to achieve high performance in AI. They use techniques like model compression, which involves reducing the size of the AI model without significantly impacting its performance and quantization, which involves using fewer bits to represent the data within the model.
So it's like they were streamlining their algorithms to make them more efficient.
Exactly. And this is a key takeaway for the future of AI development, I think, as we move toward more distributed and edge-based computing. The ability to optimize those algorithms for efficiency is going to become even more important.
It's like they were ahead of the curve, anticipating the trends that are now shaping the industry.
Precisely. And this, forward-thinking approach is evident in many aspects of their strategy. They weren't just focused on solving today's problems, they were also anticipating future challenges and opportunities.
And this brings us to another crucial aspect of their success, their understanding of the geopolitical landscape. They knew they were operating in this environment of technological competition, and they aligned their strategies accordingly.
Right. They recognize that technological innovation isn't just about, technical prowess. It's also about national strategy and global influence.
They saw this as an opportunity to showcase China's growing capabilities in the tech sector and position themselves as, a leader in the field of AI.
Absolutely. And this is a reality that's becoming more and more apparent as technology plays a larger role in international relations. The DeepSeek R1 story really highlights that interconnectedness of technology, geopolitics, and innovation. It reminds us that technological advancements have the potential to, reshape global power dynamics.
It's a high-stakes game, and it seems like China is playing it strategically. They're investing heavily in research and development, fostering a culture of innovation, and they're actively shaping the global conversation around technology.
Exactly. And this is something that other nations, including the United States, need to be paying attention to. The DeepSeek R1 story is a real wake-up call. It shows that the balance of technological power is shifting, and those who can anticipate and adapt to those changes are the ones who are going to shape the future.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into DeepSeek R1. We've been exploring the ripple effects of this groundbreaking AI and what it all means for the future of global technological leadership.
It's been quite a journey, hasn't it? From that, that initial announcement, which seemed pretty low-key, to this mad scramble to understand what it all means. DeepSeek R1 has really shaken things up.
It's not just about the tech itself, though. It's about the thinking behind it, the innovative approaches that made it possible. This story goes way beyond just AI. It's got lessons for leaders and innovators in any field, really.
I completely agree. The DeepSeek R1 story is a case study in pure disruptive innovation. It makes you question your assumptions about what's even possible, and it highlights how important adaptability and strategic thinking are in today's world where everything's changing so fast.
So let's bring it all together. What are the key takeaways from this whole DeepSeek R1 saga? What can our listeners, what can they apply to their own work and lives?
Well, one of the biggest lessons, I think, is the importance of challenging those assumptions. The DeepSeek R1 team, they didn't just accept the conventional wisdom, right? They questioned this idea that you needed massive resources to build advanced AI, and they found a way to get comparable results with, a fraction of the budget.
They really turned things upside down. They rewrote the rules of the game, and in doing so, they disrupted the whole established order.
Exactly. And this willingness to challenge the status quo, that's essential for anyone who wants to really innovate, to make a difference. We can't be afraid to question how things have always been done, because sometimes the biggest breakthroughs come from those who are willing to think differently.
DeepSeek R1 is definitely a testament to that, and it's also a really great example of how constraints can actually be like catalysts for creativity.
Absolutely. A lot of times we see limitations as obstacles, right? But the DeepSeek R1 team, they showed us that constraints can actually drive innovation. They were forced to be resourceful, to think outside the box, and that's what ultimately led to that breakthrough.
It's like, that old saying, necessity is the mother of invention. It really applies here.
It does. And this mindset, it's valuable no matter what you're facing, whether it's, limited resources, tight deadlines, a rapidly changing market. The ability to embrace those constraints and turn them into advantages, that's what sets people apart.
So don't shy away from challenges, embrace them, use them as fuel for innovation.
Exactly. Another big takeaway from the DeepSeek R1 story is the power of collaboration. The team didn't achieve this on their own. They built a whole network of partners and collaborators.
They tapped into the open source community, they partnered with universities, they aligned themselves with China's national goals. It's a great example of how collaboration can really amplify your impact.
Exactly. That collaborative approach gave them access to a wider range of expertise, resources, different perspectives. It's a good reminder that we can achieve so much more when we work together.
And that's especially true now, in today's world where everything's so interconnected and collaboration is key to solving these big, complex challenges.
Absolutely. And this brings us to another important takeaway. The need for strategic foresight. The DeepSeek R1 team didn't just react to what was happening around them. They anticipated future trends and aligned their strategies accordingly.
They were thinking ahead, understanding that the tech world is constantly evolving.
Exactly. They knew that those who could anticipate those changes, adapt to them, those are the ones who are going to shape the future. That kind of strategic thinking, it's essential for any organization that wants to stay ahead of the game.
So how do we cultivate that strategic foresight? What are some practical steps we can take?
One approach is, scenario planning. It's basically exploring different potential futures, different scenarios, and then developing strategies for each one.
It's like a thought experiment where you consider different possibilities, even the unexpected ones, and prepare for them.
Yeah, exactly. By doing that, you build more resilient strategies, more adaptable ones that can withstand those challenges, whatever they might be.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Don't just focus on the present. Think about the future. Be ready for anything.
Right. And another way to cultivate that strategic foresight is to, stay informed about emerging trends and technologies. Read industry publications, go to conferences, talk to experts in your field.
Be curious, basically.
Yeah,
Constantly seeking out new knowledge and insights.
absolutely. By doing that, you develop a deeper understanding of the forces that are shaping your industry, shaping the world.
So be a lifelong learner. Embrace curiosity and stay ahead of the curve.
Now, as we, wrap up our deep dive here, there's one final takeaway I want to emphasize, and that's the importance of purpose.
Purpose. How does that fit into the DeepSeek R1 story?
Well, the DeepSeek R1 team, they weren't just driven by, technological ambition. There was a deeper purpose there, this belief that their work could have a positive impact on the world.
They saw their innovation as a way to, contribute to China's national goals, but also to advance AI as a whole.
Exactly. And that sense of purpose, it gave them the motivation, the resilience to overcome those challenges and achieve this breakthrough. It's a reminder that innovation isn't just about technology, it's about using technology to solve problems, to make a difference.
So when we have that clear sense of purpose, it fuels our creativity, it gives our work meaning.
Exactly. As you go on your own journey of innovation, remember to ask yourself, what's the purpose behind this? How can I use my skills, my talents, to make a positive impact?
That's a great point to end on. The DeepSeek R1 story reminds us that innovation is about people, about strategy, and about purpose.
It's about questioning assumptions, embracing constraints, and working together to achieve something truly remarkable.
And as we navigate this, this ever-changing technological landscape, let's remember those lessons from DeepSeek R1 and strive to build a future where innovation is driven by purpose and where technology is used to create a more inclusive, equitable world for everyone.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it insightful. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep innovating.